So, Phil, what I have here is a list of cards that I've compiled from the new standard set, Final Fantasy. It probably has a longer name than that, but we're going to go with Final Fantasy, the standard set. None of the commander cards or anything like that. I need more time to evaluate that stuff. But for the standard set, we've got a list right here. And we're going to go over all these cards in order. You can go to our Mox field, and if you see FF Picks, which is up here, FF Picks, and I will make it public now. So there we go. And you can follow along and see the cards that we have picked, and we're going to talk about them.
What is the status on people's opinion about Final Fantasy having 40 different editions?
Yeah, I just don't understand. It's too many things for me.
It's too much
for my brain to swallow.
It falls into the Final Destination caveat of just lying from the jump. Right?
Yeah.
Final Fantasy, and also now there's Final Fantasy 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. It's wait, so none of this was the Final Fantasy? None of it was?
Phil, I just want to start out by saying I'm really disappointed in two particular things lore-wise for this set. Nothing from Spirits Within, which was the Final Fantasy movie that came out in 1999, 2001-ish time. I actually saw that in the theaters on release day, and it was god-awful, but I feel like it should be, included.
I heard the argument the idea that sort of thing would show up in subsequent secret layers. Is that you think that we're going to get there?
And then Final Fantasy Tactics as well, which I actually love. I think that game's one of the best tactical RPGs out there. And they even put out they made another game for the Switch. I forget what it was called, Square Tactics or something like that. Mm-hmm. I've been playing, and I love that game. I also like that apparently they just re-released Final Fantasy Tactics, which is wild that they wouldn't have cards for it here. You would think Square would know that they're coming out at the exact same time. But there was a thing in the game that was pretty common where if you were the kind of person that just saved one slot on your PlayStation card that let you save games, that you would get to this fight that was pretty hard, and if you weren't sufficiently leveled up, you could soft lock yourself because it let you save right before you went into the fight. And so if you saved right before you went into the fight and you couldn't get out of the fight, you would just be soft locked into that fight forever. And the fight was only 2 hits. So
dude, that's too close of a metaphor for modern day Legacy.
Yeah, exactly, right? Apparently modern day Standard as well.
3-for-1 Trading is buying all Magic the Gathering singles and entire collections, big and small.
They're one of the top trading card game traders, buying way over 1 million Magic cards a year, and they are more than happy to make an offer on your cards.
In addition to sending in your cards, you'll also have a chance to sell and trade with them at MagicCon Las Vegas, taking place from June 20th to 22nd.
You can support the channel by using the link 341.gg/sell-ed.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show.
But anyhow, let's talk about the first card, Absolute Virtue. Absolute Virtue is an 8-mana 8/8 in Azorius colors. It says this spell can't be countered, it has flying, and it says you have protection from each of your opponents.
And that means that you can't be dealt damage, enchanted by, or targeted by anything controlled by your opponents. Now, Zach, template in question. Why couldn't this have said you have protection from opponents? Do they have to say each opponent? That way it doesn't mean that multiple opponents have to target you at the same time?
No, I don't think it changes anything. I think that's just that's how they wanted to word it.
It's weird wording.
Yeah.
My editor brain goes into, we can just cut those 3 words and accomplice the same thing. But what do you
from
think of
your
this?
opponent, from target opponent?
Would this ever, is this a sideboard juke a la, what's the angel from Modern Horizons that gives you protection from a thing?
That would be Sarah's Emissary, which I recently wrote today because I wrote an article for EternalDurtles.com.
Yeah, that article will go live shortly.
If you're the type of person that wants to write an article about Legacy, about honestly anything Magic related, you can hit up Phil at ForceofPhil on pretty much any platform, and he will make that happen for you.
I will make it happen. We just got one up recently about a player's journey to playing Painter Servant and the adaptations that have happened since. And Painter's getting a huge upgrade from Final Fantasy. So the rules changed on Urza Saga, which everybody's talking about, and we'll talk about plenty more. But that change doesn't happen until the 13th, June 13th. But arguably the most powerful card coming out of Final Fantasy, Urza Saga.
Yeah, Urza Saga, indeed. So yeah, this is a Reanimator target that maybe you have an opponent that has if you're playing Reanimator against most people, this isn't going to be great. But let's say you're playing against Tendrils, right? Or you're playing against some sort of quick combo deck that isn't Thassa's Oracle related. This stops them from being able to target you. And it's an 8/8 flyer. It's not nothing,
It's an 8/8 flyer. I question if this is better than what Sarah's Emissary already does. In all of the decks or all of the things that you would want Absolute Virtue's effect against, like a Tendrils deck, typically, Sarah's Emissary is going to just cover that same ground. And granted, it isn't blue, so it's not pitchable to Force, but then it's also not targetable by Pyroblast. The thing about Absolute Virtue is you can just kill it with pretty much any type of removal spell that would deal with a big fatty anyway.
Itself,
So it doesn't have protection itself. So it really needs to it's a sideboard juke for target for any of the things like Tendrils that you would have it against. And I don't know that it's doing anything different or better than what Sarah's Emissary is already accomplishing. I mean, maybe it just does it in a way that's stronger than Sarah's Emissary, so you can have protection from your opponents, meaning that it's covering everything that Sarah's Emissary is doing. I don't know if it's an upgrade. I don't know if it's a sidestep. But that's the only space that it's going to exist in, right?
Yes. I don't see anyone hard casting this. I don't see Miracles being like,
no.
Here we go.
I'm curious in that, because it says that this spell can't be countered, I don't know if this could ever show up, only because it is itself soft to removal. And all of the removal, it being blue, I think is actually a downside here, where Atraxa being all colors means that it's pitchable to everything, and then if it ever touches, you just draw your deck. Whereas this one is blue, so it's susceptible and you can pitch it, but at the same time, it is looking to be like the lights out. It's looking to be the Iona. And that's where I'm okay, well, Empty the Warrens has fallen out of favor because of Tamiyo's +1 when it flips, blanking Empty the Warrens. So in that regard, it's also if you were looking to cut your opponent out of the things that this thing would cut it off from, it's you have Iona if you want to cut people off of doing the Tendrils type stuff, but then you have Sarah's Emissary if you're also worried about
mono black sorceries,
mono black Beseech playing okay, well now I'm protected from your creatures, so you can't beat me down.
Sure.
But this being an 8/8 versus a 7/7, it has flying, it doesn't have lifelink, so it's it's not like there's any upgrade to that. All of the fatties that Reanimator puts into play already have flying. So I think this is going to come up short. I mean, if you see it in that one slot, I guess don't be surprised if people just want to, try a little bit of something different. But I don't think this is new.
Yeah. All right. Next we have Cecil Dark Knight. This is a 2/3 for 1 black mana with Death Touch. It has Darkness. Whenever Cecil deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, untap Cecil and transform it. When you transform Cecil, you have Cecil Redeemed Paladin. It's got lifelink and is a 4/4 and it has Protect. Whenever attacked, each other attacking creature gains Indestructible.
I think this is really good.
So this is weird because the lifelink is the thing that the upside here is actually the thing that makes this feel weird to me. Because I want to play it in Death Shadow.
I think that's a trap, though. I think everybody sees a thing that is small and costs you life, and then immediately jumps to Death Shadow. And Death Shadow is not playable, but Dimir
not
Tempo
now.
is, and everybody who's on the Nethergoyf shenanigans is okay, yeah, Nethergoyf is a 4/5 on turn 2 or whatever. This is only a 2/3, but in the matchups where that lifelink is just a huge swing, and now you can just chunk in, and all your stuff is indestructible. I don't know. I see Cecil gets a bad rap in that the only discussion I've heard about it is in its relationship to Death Shadow. And I think Death Shadow isn't playable, and I think that this card is, because this is a 1 mana 4/4 with lifelink that gives your entire team indestructible. If you look at it that way, this card's really good. And all it's asking of you is to literally let the game play. This is one of those things where we always underestimate the cards. Maybe this doesn't show up at all because Black has an embarrassment of riches at this point in tempo aggro
Used to be. Remember when Black wasn't played 2 years ago?
Well, that's because the best thing to be doing at the time was Uro, and the redundancy of Uro didn't have any way to deal with it realistically. That was Uro blanked that part of the color pie, not that Black wasn't good enough and it's on its own. If you had gotten rid of, if they had banned Uro, Black would have been fine and playable. The reason was this redundant recurrent piece that was everywhere at the time, and now it's sitting on the brink of on the edge of the format because the format's too fast. But I think that all of the cards that don't ask you for mana to do whatever it is that they do are so much more powerful. The actual thing that is going to block a card from being playable in Legacy is any form of mana gating. Mana is the bottleneck. Always. Mana is always the bottleneck. Not like the game actions.
Yeah.
Like we can take plenty of game actions.
I do want to caveat here, Phil, that you said all you have to do is let the game play, but this needs to connect in order to flip.
No, this needs to connect.
You need to connect. So it's just not like you're at 9, you play this and it flips over to become a 4/4 lifelink.
Yeah, but I'm saying that like if you think like, okay, instead of Death Shadow that wants you to maintain a low life total, if you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do the things like Thought Seize and Force of Will and Snuff Out and whatever that get me to a low life total, and then I spend black to get a 4/4 lifelinker that gives my team indestructible, like that is a lot sexier than, oh, but now there's confliction with my Death Shadow. How about cut the Death Shadows from your deck? Like, and maybe Death Shadow hasn't lived up, and like a 4/4 lifelinker is just where it's at.
It's like, unfortunate that it's each other attacking creature. If it gave itself indestructible too, that would be sick.
But at the same time,
I'd feel a lot better about this card.
If you're pairing it with something else that's getting in that would care about the indestructible part of the effect, like even if that's flavor text, like, or that's just like, okay, abyss your board, right? Like if you have to trade this and gain a bunch of life, and the rest of the stuff means that like this just makes the rest of your team unblockable, like, all right, yeah, like my Barrowgoyf is everywhere right now. It's like, okay, yeah, you can't, double chump my Barrowgoyf to try and trade with it. Sorry. Like this thing just abysses your board, and now you're way behind, and it costs me a mana. Like, I think this is way better.
One mana is definitely the buy-in on this type of effect overall. I think this card is saved by its 1 mana cost.
It's saved by 1 mana, and it's also in the best color right now. Like all of the tempo shell of like, yeah, Days Wasteland, Force Will, cantrips, whatever, and the blue stuff, and then like, but like the threat out of those decks is exactly Tameo in blue. Everything else is black. So like this just being like, okay, maybe this is Nethergorth number 5, or maybe this is Nethergorth number 4. Like the legendary, maybe you don't want to have a couple of these in your deck, but like having a one of, and now you just have access to additional life gain in your deck. And if you're ever in any racing situation where you're like, well, like, I think that like this is just really strong, and like you don't care about Bowmaster, even if they like come in and Bowmaster ping, like they would have to trade both sides of it for the Bowmaster, which means that you go up a mana on that exchange. It's like, and like you would rather have Bowmaster off the table anyway. I don't know. I think that this card is totally a reasonable thing and is in that Nethergorth space. And I think that like we should just stop talking about it with that shadow.
Okay. Off to Cloud, Midgard Mercenary.
Speaking of Orcish Bowmaster, my guy.
This is 2 white mana for a 2/1 legendary creature, human soldier mercenary. When Cloud enters, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers for additional time. I'm not high on this card, but I will say this. Another card I wasn't high on last time was Voice of Victory, and I'm sold, and I'm loving that card. And I just need to know that I'm not sleeping on something that's probably not as good here as I think it is. I think this card maybe not great, but there's some person in what's it called? Death and Taxes style decks that probably is like, I can't wait.
I think this is the most prominent example of a standard set versus a Modern Horizons or straight to Modern set. If this was in a Modern Horizons set, it would cost 1 and a white, and it would be a 2/3.
And it would attach the equipment to it immediately, right?
Yeah, and instead it's a 2/1, which means that it's actually unplayable. You can't play X1s in an Orcish Bowmaster format.
That much I agree with, yeah.
Until Orcish Bowmaster goes, these cards are just soft banned from the format, as sweet as they would be to play with.
All right. Flipping over to a Diamond Weapon. This is a 9 mana, 7 and 2 green, 8/8. It says this is a legendary artifact creature elemental with reach. It has immune, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to Diamond Weapon. And then it says this spell costs 1 less for each permanent in your graveyard. So we're looking at that like what was that, like Giant Sloth or whatever, the Bela, that thing that like was like a tapped 9/9.
It was tapped equal to the number of counters you had on other permanents. So you'd play it with Dark Depths and then have a 2 mana 10.
Yeah, amazing. So this is in that same realm, but it's like this is for a deck that's like a dredge deck that wants to like use that.
I wouldn't sleep on the fact that this is an artifact. Like your way that like, yes, you can get a discount on this, but this also being an artifact, so like welder shenanigans and stuff like that. Like this being a thing that blocks a Murktide forever, like not only is it often going to be as big or bigger than a Murktide because of its reach, but also it doesn't care about tussling with it because it prevents all damage. So the fact that they would need a way to remove this thing, and it's in neither blast color, so they would need a way to deal with specifically with artifacts to get it off the table.
That's it. Yeah,
and it's like in those decks, like the ways that they remove artifacts are few and far between. Like, yes, you can abrade this and stuff like that, but like, okay, like if this shows up, at least you could farm early until people respect it. And then in the in the like cradle control type decks that are all about trying to put creatures into the yard and permanents into the yard and are already in that space anyway, like a 2-mana 8/8 with reach just to like stabilize the board. Nothing gets through this thing because you can't deal damage to it, so it's like it's just got to be removed. And if you're in that space, like, is this something that you would trade one of your like Scythe Cat Cubs for? Like, I don't know, probably not, but like, I don't know. I think this has a bit more utility than we think for the stats that are on it in the context of the format that it would be slotted into. I'm sort of high on this card because it's an artifact.
Okay. All right. Next we have
it's an elemental too. I don't know if there's something to be done with elementals, but I feel like elemental is a pretty deep card type to support in a lot of ways. I mean,
Cavern of Souls elemental.
I've been thinking about it with Kahira. It's like Kahira lets you have elementals in your deck, right? Like maybe there's something there.
Oh, okay. Hey, Legacy fans. Since you're enjoying the show, please like and subscribe to the video. It helps the channel grow.
Support Eternal Turtles on Patreon so we can create even more content and cover events.
Patreons get an ad-free RSS feed, 4 bonus episodes a month, and Discord recognition. Join the Dirtle Maniacs at patreon.com/EternalDirtles.
Now back to the show.
All right, next up we have Rydia, Summoner of Mist. This is a 1/2 for a red and a green. It has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Summon X. Summon X. Tap. Return target saga card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. I'm just strictly looking at this as like a card that lands can look at and be like, hey, I love discarding cards when my lands come into play to like get land value, great. But also you can just rebuy your saga for like a value play for 0 mana, and you're still getting that landfall either way.
Yeah.
Right? Tap return it gets exiled, but like how many fucking Keldon Warlords do you need to win a game?
The other thing about this is it's 0 mana tap, return Urza Saga to from your graveyard to play, and that also will trigger the landfall ability to rummage. So it is tap, return Urza Saga to play, rummage, whatever it is from your hand. And rummaging is really good in that type of shell because being able to dump and dredge Life from the Loam, like, there is space in that. I also wonder if, I mean, we've seen Fuzban go playing Blue Dredge, and this is Landfall Rummage, which, is just put a land into play and dredge. I think that, like, I don't know if that's appealing, but, like, they've moved over to, weird mana bases before where they can cast whatever they need. And this is probably too slow because they have the blue-black card that lets them mill the whole library. But, like, I don't know, like, I think that the Landfall Rummage ability is actually really powerful because, again, it's not mana gated.
Sataru is who you're talking about there.
Sataru. And then the only 0 mana enchantment that exists in the game is, well, there's 2 of them now because of Valgavoth's Lair or whatever, but that's just a limited card.
No one's putting Valgavoth's Lair into play.
Urza Saga is the only other 0 mana enchantment that exists in the game, and it is very powerful with stuff like this that cares about just like returning shit for free.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier, for a 3/3 for 2 and a black, legendary human avatar soldier. Whenever Sephiroth enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, draw a card. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life. You gain 1 life. If this is the 4th time this ability has resolved, transform Sephiroth. Let's flip. Sephiroth, One-Winged Angel, flying supernova. As this creature transforms into Sephiroth, One-Winged Angel, you get an emblem. Whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Whenever Sephiroth attacks, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. If you do, draw that many cards. I know. This is just a nod to Nate.
It's a nod to Nate.
It's a nod to Nate.
And specifically the timeline where Nate is just like a dedicated diehard casual commander player.
Yeah. that timeline specifically. Whenever another creature dies, if this is the 4th time. Yeah, 4 times. Like, what can you even do? That's wild. You're never getting this off. Initially I looked at this because I was like, are we getting like a black card that forces what's called Ancient Tomb players to look at it? And then I was like, maybe this isn't really where you want to be. But I still think it's worth mentioning just because, hey, shout out to Nate.
Shout out to Nate, and also literally every card that's 2 mana and a pip always has to be looked at because it's a turn 1 play. And
there are a few rules like that in this format now.
Yeah, there's the 2 and a pips are turn 1 plays, and is this a backbreaking thing to do on turn 1? And it is not, because it wants you to have something else on the board already. So I don't think this one's going to see any legacy play.
Fair enough. All right, let's go to Summon Bahamut. This is a saga. A 9/9 saga for 9 mana. It's flying. Its 1 and 2 are destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its 3 is draw 2 cards. Its 4, Mega Flare, is this creature deals damage equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent.
So I think that this came out a set too late. They decided to give every commander player Ugin in the last set that just says when this is cast, exile somebody's board, and then whenever you cast anything, exile somebody's board. So, and that's only 2 mana less than this.
I'm not even targeting it for that kind of deck, Phil. I'm looking at this as a card that you can bring back from the graveyard.
Yeah, sure. You want to use in as another reanimator target?
Yeah, cool. Why not?
I mean, yeah, big fatty that just says, game-ending thing. This is better than
Archon of Cruelty. This is better than Angel of Despair if you want to play those for any particular reason. But on top of that, you get a 9/9, you draw 2 cards, and there's a good chance that you may have already reanimated something else that's big, that maybe you're going to close out the game 1 turn early when that 4th one hits.
Zach, I think you nailed it, and I think that what everybody was clamoring for was a way to make Archon of Cruelty better. Everybody was clamoring for that. We all wanted that.
We've all been trying to figure out how to make Reanimate good, right?
We want, everybody was like, you know what? This deck would be playable if only Archon of Cruelty was a little bit better.
Yeah. I think that's the choice. So this card may replace Archon of Cruelty, which is a total possibility. All right. And not much more to say about it is beyond that. Let's go to our first and only sorcery, Phil.
Well, it's not on here, but I also wanted to give another shout out to another reanimation target. Is the 8 mana white enchantment that just makes triple Grave Titans every turn of the game for the rest of the game.
Oh yeah, the night one, right?
Yeah. So essentially, it just, if you are like, oh man, I don't want to die to a wide board or to singleton removal, you just play this thing that just makes infinite tokens, so you can never lose.
But it's like a 5/5. That's not splashy enough.
But it makes
a ton of guys. Yeah,
so
it makes a lot of guys.
Yeah, and 20 power is pretty good for 1 mana,
Yeah, I agree. All right. It's a suplex. Suplex is a braid variant with sorcery, basically, but it has exile. So choose one. Suplex deals 3 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it, or exile target artifact. Now the question is that exile clause good enough that it will replace a braid, or do we need it to be an instant?
I think you need it to be an instant, but at the same time, the 1 ring shouldn't exist, but it does, and so therefore, anytime anything says exile target artifact, it is now contingent upon how much people respect the 1 ring. So I think that's the entirety of the discussion on this card.
Let's not also mention that this is probably great in Pauper, where you can just exile your opponent's lands.
Oh yeah. That's a whole different space. But yes, exile in that regard is very good.
Yeah. All right. Instance. Louis Sue's Sacrifice.
We love Louis Sue. Give it up for Louis Sue, everybody.
Did I say it right, guys?
Who knows, man?
Someone
Who cares?
In the comments. I'm
Louis
obviously
Sue.
a giant Final Fantasy fan. You can tell from this T-shirt I bought yesterday.
Louis Sue.
Louis Sue. Louis Sue's Sacrifice.
Oh man, Louis Sue's Sacrifice is that he's unplayable. I'm gonna pour one out for Louis Sue.
Louis Sue. Louis Sue is a 1 mana instant that says counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or non-creature spell. So it's a stifle with a negate just stapled onto it, right?
Zach, you forgot the first line of text that makes the card unplayable.
I'm about to read that.
We're about to read that. We're about to read that part of Louis Sue.
As an additional cost of this spell, sacrifice a legendary creature or pay 2 colorless mana. Or 2 generic mana, not even colorless, 2 generic.
Yo, let's link right here to the card above Zach's head that talks about how paying mana for counter magic is unplayable. Now, the activated triggered ability stuff is actually pretty sweet. Like your stifles and your consigns do have home and playability in this format still. Those are still pretty good. But those cost 1. This costs 3.
Phil, I don't know. Do you think it's worth it to sacrifice a Tamio to stop a Thassa's Oracle trigger?
Dude, you could totally stop a Thassa's Oracle trigger by sacrificing your Tamio. You know, you get a nice little 2-for-1. Dude, I mean, the number of times that I've tried to play Abjur, I don't know if anybody knows what Abjur is, but
sacrifice a blue permanent counter target spell for 1 blue.
For a blue. That one doesn't even have the option to pay 2 more mana. That one is you just got to sacrifice a blue
you
permanent.
Better have a blue permanent.
And well, you know, like I mean, if you're not willing to play Abjur, you're not willing to play Louis Sue.
Hard agree. All right, we're gonna go to Sephiroth's Intervention. I actually did play Final Fantasy VII. I don't know why I keep saying Sephiroth's Intervention. Also, man, nothing comes out like a lisp when you say Sephiroth.
I don't know, man. I mean, Louis Sue has Louis Sue. Bonsoir.
My apologies to any French watchers. Anyhow, this is a 4-mana instant that says destroy target creature, you gain 2 life. Phil, if you know, you know.
I mean,
do you know though? Do you know?
I don't know though.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I specifically I brought that card up because if you know, you know.
Yeah, since I don't know.
And Phil don't know. Guys, Phil don't know.
I don't know, so
who's gonna tell him? Who's gonna tell Phil?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Someone in the comments, someone tell Phil.
Somebody get in the comments and tell me what I don't know.
All right, next up we have Astrologanian. What is that word?
Astrologians.
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 Woo! Planisphere. Stop making up words, guys. Just
Planisphere. It's a planisphere, bro.
Planisphere.
Stop making up words, fantasy card game that we play.
Artifact equipment. This has job select, so you get a 1/1 that gets attached to it when it enters. And that then when it's equipped to it, equipped creature is a wizard in addition to its other types, and has, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, and whenever you draw your 3rd card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It has Diana equipped to.
Yeah,
I don't know why you need to call that Diana.
Because
Diana that's what the name of the character is.
Man.
Yeah.
The Astrologian is Diana.
The Astrologian, yes.
Yeah, so let's shout out to our blue-red / Grixis Wizards players that just want to be Flame of Anoring. This is a good card. This one is
you can Flame of Anor this, which is something, but it doesn't replace Corey Steelcutter, right? Like this is living in that same space. So if you're a Flame of Anor person, though, you might want this.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is different. Corey Steelcutter's going wide and wanting you to spell sling. Mm-hmm. This one is blue, which is not nothing, which is, that it can get hit by blast. But this one being blue is good. And also, this is another artifact that in the way that you would need to double spell. And double spelling for Corey Steelcutter is asking you to essentially compress as low to the ground as you possibly can. This card is not asking you for that. This one is just asking you to do things.
Just cast them.
This thing is just asking you to play the game. Again, this is asking you to play the game, and it's not mana-gated, right? You're getting the 2/2 that is also a wizard, and 2/2 is too low, but like...
And every time you cast a Brainstorm, it's 2 extra damage.
If you are just interacting at all, like if you're doing anything, like your opponent is not going to want to spend any removal on the creature, right?
No.
This is the thing where it's like, you don't want to spend your removal on it, that sucks shit. And so, like, as the game progresses, you're going to be like, oh, man, this Astrologian Sphere is just accruing a value to be a big enough creature that now they have to spend the removal on it.
And Phil, if they do spend the removal on it, there's no guarantee that you haven't moved this over to another creature and you just have like a 4/4 on the board just attacking, and then you're like, oh, I'll start making this other guy big, and then they have to decide like what they're gonna get rid of.
This is another thing, like like one thing about job select that doesn't necessarily work with Quarry Steel Cutter or flicker effects. So like there's a world where like this plus any amount of flickering also generates some amount of value. I think that this one, while not being like absurd, right? Like it's a fine card. I think that this one can snowball a lot faster than people realize just by it's because it is not mana gated. It is asking you to play the game. That's it. You are already doing the thing that it is asking you to do. You do not have to change your behavior whatsoever.
This is my call for sleeper hit of this set.
Yeah, those types of cards that are just like
this is our
that
ledger
literally
shredder.
have text that just says just play.
Yeah,
like any like replace all of that text with this card will just grow over time as you do literally anything. Those are typically pretty strong, and this one also not caring if the creature gets removed because you can either flick this or you can put another creature on it, and then that creature can just get buffed. Like it's low to the ground. It's already a creature in and of itself, so it's not just an equipment that's just going to sit there and not do anything. Like attacking on value onto your other effects, like this makes it so that your cantrips are also pump spells in the same way that Quarry Steel Cutter makes your cantrips threats. Like we're in that space of this is just making all of your other cards have additional effects on top of them, and it's not mana gating you.
Yep,
it's really
all
good.
Right. Next up, Elixir is a 1 mana artifact, Phil.
Yeah.
You know what we say about 1 mana artifacts?
We got to look at them. I don't know why we would have to look at them.
I don't
know what is the card that's paradigm shifting every 1 mana artifact into be something that we have to do on review episodes.
Maybe it comes back with a finality counter on it. This artifact enters tapped, so that's kind of meh, right?
Meh.
And it says 5 tap, exile this artifact, shuffle all non-land cards from your graveyard into your library, gain life equal to the number of cards shuffled into your library this way. Phil, we're so close. We're so close to getting you to play Urza Saga because this is very close to Gaia's Blessing with some amount of life attached to it.
Bro, Elixir of Immortality does the exact same thing.
It's true.
But it comes in untapped and it costs 2 to tap instead of 5, and that card is nowhere near playable. What we really need is just Elixir of Immortality without the additional mana gate and also draws you a card.
There you go.
And we're just not going to get there because they're never going to print that type of thing in limited because that'd be just such a fun strategy.
Fair. All right, Excalibur 2 is a 1 mana artifact, Phil.
Zach, I don't know. Call Louis Sue. What are we doing?
Give me Louis Sue right now.
Get Louis Sue in the line immediately.
I love it that if we're saying that wrong, we've been doing it like hard doing it. Somebody is losing their mind right now.
No, people are probably like, "Wow, these guys are saying Louis."
If someone was going Jandoff the entire time, well, for the Lord of the Rings set, they were just like Jandoff. I'd be like, "Are you kidding me?"
I would like him way more if he were Jandoff.
Jandoff. What if he just came back and said Jandoff and then left?
Yeah, that's.
What if Tolkien came back to life and was like, "It's pronounced Jandoff"?
Look, if it's Jataxian Probe and not Gitaxian Probe, then it's certainly Jandoff.
Yeah, John Doerr
way
calls
better.
for Ace.
Again, way better. These are upgrades. Thank you for everybody for watching this premium content. This premium content. We're going to become Eternal Dirtles, a Louis Sue podcast.
All right. Whenever you gain life, put a charge counter on Excalibur 2. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each charge counter on Excalibur 2. Equip is 3. I'm going to go out on a limb, Phil, and say this was...
Go out on that limb, Zach.
This probably isn't playable as a 1-mana artifact.
I mean, that's a hard take, Zach. Hard take.
Unless we're proliferating for some reason.
Look, man, this thing costs 0 mana and it pops out of your deck. There's got to be something you can do. Who knows, man? Who knows?
If this somehow also had lifelink, I still don't think it would be playable.
If this somehow did anything,
if it gave double strike and lifelink, I still don't think it'd be playable.
Sure. Yep.
All right, let's go to the next
Shadow
one.
Spear.
Hey, Phil, we got another 1-mana artifact here.
Zach, we're pulling out these 1-mana artifacts, and we're going to have to ask people to get in the comments to figure out why. I don't know if anybody will know.
So we've got Lunatic Pandora, a legendary artifact that says tap 2, surveil 1. Then we have tap 6, sacrifice Lunatic Pandora, destroy target non-land permanent.
So beyond the effects not being good enough, the one thing that I'll say here again is this thing costs mana, dude. It wants you to spend mana to do a thing. We don't spend mana in this format to do stuff. If you have a thing that requires mana to do it, get it out.
Yeah. I'm just not seeing it with this one. The Surveil 1 for 2 mana is like there's cards that will draw you a card for 1 mana.
Dude, do you remember when Hogak was in Modern and it was the best deck for like the 40 days or whatever that it existed?
Sure. Vaguely,
and people were talking about like,
I wasn't playing Modern by then. I was like,
no, but it was the talk of the town, right? It was back in Modern Horizons 1, back when people were like, oh, what is this straight to Modern set? What are we doing with this? And people were offering like ideas for ways to combat Hogak or things to do in Hogak to fight the things that people were doing to fight Hogak. And there was a poignant take to somebody in response to somebody else's suggestion for a card to play to solve some problem. And the person's response was, it costs mana. You can't cost mana. Not allowed to cost mana, bro.
Yeah, hard agree. All right, next up, we have another 1 mana artifact, Phil. It's called World Map. World Map says 1 and tap, sacrifice this artifact, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Now, for 3 mana and tap, you can sacrifice this artifact, search your library for any land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your library.
So I don't think that this is better than Expedition Map, even though there is the 1/3 split. Because if you're playing Expedition Map, you're playing it for the ability to get any land, not just the basic. This having the failsafe of being 1 less mana to get the basic, I don't think is enough of a discount. I think it would need to...
It would need to not only be free, it would need to like draw you a card or something.
It would need to do something more. Of course, everything needs to do more now because this one costs mana, and the cost of a mana is so steep that it has to do infinitely more for that mana.
You can opt for 1 mana.
I think that the world that I'm interested in this card when it was spoiled as like clearly a nod to Expedition Map is this is the space of like, oh, we have now Expedition Maps 5 through 8. And when you have that kind of redundancy, it makes me think, yeah, essentially like that's exactly right? Like once you have 8 cast, then you had a shell. And now we have 8 map. Is there a world where like you can, like, does this open the world of Dark Depths decks that don't need green for crop rot? Like that's more so the interesting space where I'm curious because
you can play red Dark Depths.
Well, you have like Urza's Cave that also is a 3 mana instant to get any land out of your deck. You have this now to get any land out of your deck. You have Expedition Map to get any land out of your deck. That's all colorless stuff. Thespian Stage and Dark Depths is already a colorless combination anyway. Like you're playing green because you have Life from the Loam and you have Crop Rot, and that's really important. But like if you have enough tutors, like Crop Rot is the best one. Don't get me wrong, because it's a 1 mana instant. But like if you are interested in playing in a space that doesn't involve green, like if you are like, yeah, I want to be a deeper Urza Saga deck. These are all artifacts that are all like going to pump my team. Like I think that there's maybe some way to explore some deck building space that essentially opens up Dark Depths into non-green spaces. I don't know if that's doable just because this card now comes in as maps 5 through 8, but like you can now play 12 colorless tutors for either half of the combo, and that like gives you space to be in like your Ancient Tombs and like other ramp type effects that don't require green. And I think that's like the most intriguing space. Like, is this card good enough? I don't know, but like there's enough thought behind it to be like, well, maybe there's a new deck to be had in like this still powerful realm. And it's like, if we move away from green and then we can go towards blue for counter magic, or we can go towards black for discard because, mono black, Dark Depth has been a thing before, then it's moved over to Selesnya. So it's like, I don't know, maybe this is like, maybe we cut green because now we have enough tutors to just be in mono black, and then we can play Disruption that way.
Play your Hex Mages.
Then we can play our Hex Mages again, and now like instead of playing the green lands that we would need to play Crop Rot, we can just play Urza's Cave in 12 and 8 maps, and now we have all of these ways to tutor. And now we have like the new 2 and a black guy that removes all of the counters from Dark Depths as well, that lets us then make a bunch of colorless mana, and then colorless mana is good for all these colorless spells that we're playing. Like, I don't know, like is it good enough? Who knows? I don't play Merit Blades all that much, but this is the first card where I'm like, this is intriguing enough to potentially open up some deck building space in a way that I don't think is embarrassing like all the other cards have been.
Phil, I'm actually kind of excited, not super excited, but kind of excited about the next card because I think it has legs, and I want to explore that a little bit. Sleep Magic is an enchant creature that says, when this aura enters, by the way, it's 1 blue mana. When this aura enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step, and when enchanted creature is dealt damage, sacrifice this aura. This is hard removal for most creatures in Legacy. Now, a caveat of this is if the opponent has a Orcish Bowmasters, they can deal damage to that creature.
Zach, I think that you just hit the nail on the head. If there is a card that is not good against Orcish Bowmasters, it is not playable in Legacy.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I don't mean to be like so cut and dry about that. But
here's the thing, though, Phil.
It's true.
This has you sacrifice the enchantment. It doesn't untap the creature. So, if you are a tempo style, like mono blue Delver kind of situation, that's not a thing right now, but this might buy you just enough time or get through an attack or two that you need with, let's say, your Merfolk deck or something like that, that it might just be worth playing.
I think if you were, let's say you were entertaining that type of deck, budget purposes or otherwise, I still think that you would be better off playing Into the Floodmaw or Chain of Vapor for something similar. Because
no. That's where I think you're mistaken, because those both put you in situations where they put you back. Opponent sacks a land, put your Merfolk into hand, or blocks with the 1/1. Whereas this doesn't have that drawback. It's like saying Sword to Plowshare versus Path to Exile. Sometimes you just need to get in and not have your opponent get anything for it.
Totally. I hear what you're saying, and I think that the issue with this is because this is not good on an Orcish Bowmaster, nor with an Orcish Bowmaster in the context of the game, and because that's what all the top decks are, I don't think that this is a reasonable choice, because there was another enchantment that did something like this. It was like, Dispel the Beast or whatever. It was a 1-mana blue enchantment that was essentially like, tap it, you take life equal to its power, but then it does the exact same text as this. So like, instead of this thing, tagging you for the damage, it has essentially the Orcish Bowmaster out of being able to deal damage to it, to sacrifice this thing. So like, that was a cute thing at the time as well, and I didn't see enough play. Now I get taking a hit is a heavy expense, but like the fact that somebody can play this, you can play this on like somebody's Nethergoyf or what's the Barrowgoyf, but like
one of the
play
course.
This on somebody's Tamiyo, doesn't matter. They'll flip it off a Brainstorm.
Sure.
Play this on somebody's Bowmaster, it doesn't matter.
Cards.
The relevant text is still there. Yeah. Like this is not enough with the context of the format, and it's because Bowmaster. Like there's going to be a ton of cards forever that we're going to look at, and it's just like, well, this thing's not playable because Bowmaster exists. Like literally, the face card of this set is Cloud Midgar Mercenary, and that card can't see play because it's the next one.
Yeah. All right. Finally, I want to just talk about the lands. I don't think any one of these lands in particular is worth mentioning beyond the fact that what they do. So we have these towns that come into play tapped, add 1 black mana, but then their other side is an adventure. And this is Midgar, City of Mako. And this is 2 and a black, and you get to Reactor Raid, which is you may sacrifice an artifact or creature if you do draw 2 cards, which if this wasn't a rare, I would say, hey, that looks like a great card for Pauper or something like that. But like, I don't know that any of these cards in particular are where any of us want to be for having lands in our deck that come into play tapped. But I will say this. I would have preferred this design over the double-faced multi.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, I think when I first saw these cards, I just immediately went to, so there's just like worse versions of the channel lands for the context of the decks that would want them. Like if you're playing Besages or whatever, and you have ways to recur those things, like Loam or whatever. But the channel lands are also essentially uncounterable because they're activated abilities.
Yeah.
These adventures can also...
They can be countered.
Spells, so you can counter them.
It's the worst of both worlds.
It's the worst of both worlds. It is a better fix. Like, this would have been better to do on all of the double-face lands instead of the double-face lands. Just because of the fact that, like, the double-face lands incur a bunch of, like, rules issues that generate, like, broken shit. But, like, at the same time, like, they're also... the same thing where it's like, yeah, you can, tutor for spells that are also lands. This one, you can tutor for lands that are also spells. These are way more tame. They're way more... The rate on them is priced out of Legacy. And I just don't see a world where they would ever... like, you could play this thing to draw 2 cards, or you could play, Cephalid Coliseum if you were looking to draw cards, right? Like, I just don't think that there any of the ones do a powerful enough thing to get across the line.
Yeah, too expensive and and not powerful enough.
I think it's the correct direction, though. Like for design to do spells on lands, this is the correct direction. Better than MDFCs for sure.
Well, I mean, that's all I have. I did a cursory look to make sure that there wasn't anything that was like absolutely busted. I didn't see anything. Hey, maybe I am missing something. If I am, please put it in the comments below. I'd love to do a follow-up episode with stuff that people, if somebody impresses me with a card that is bonkers. But I think this is overall, Phil, is a good thing that we're not like, oh, there's that busted Orcish Bowmasters card of this set,
Yeah, the one thing that we didn't look at was we didn't talk about VV because VV is the one that's been getting the most hype on all the stuff. But like,
it just looks like a commander card to me.
Well, I think the thing about VV is that like, even if it does show up in Legacy or whatever, it's not going to do anything novel, right? It's just it's going to be like in the Bergie space of like making a bunch of mana and then you're dead to all the same things that you're dead to.
Exactly.
So like it's not doing anything that is unique or novel.
Good luck casting a seen before. 2-color 3-mana spell in this format.
Totally, and I agree with that. But I'm saying that like I feel like the like VV is the one that has gotten the most attention coming out of the set, and I get it's because of, EDH and all of that, and all of this is pinned towards EDH. Like, I think the biggest takeaway that I've seen from, at least from my POV, from this being a standard set, and how, like, I want WotC to eventually get to the space where they're like, standard is just going to fall by the wayside of what all of the other 1v1 formats are, and we are just a commander game now. Because there is a card that is in this standard set. It's one of the transform things that when it's transformed, when it deals combat damage to a player or something, as like part of the it's the 6-mana 4/4 or whatever, that ETBs destroys a thing, and then when it deals damage, that player loses the game. Or something like that, where it's like but literally the text is that player loses the game, and you win the game. But like it's individual to like in 1v1, that is nonsense text. If the player loses the game, of course you win the game. But it's a 6-mana limited bomb that comes in, Necrotal's the thing, and then says if it connects, they just lose. So like it's an absurd card to have in limited as a bomb, because it literally says suspend one, you win the game, and it also killed the thing on the way in. But the text of if that player loses, you win. Now, in a 4-player format, that's going to create some political drama where like 2 other players are going to have to protect that player that player is now going after for the turn. It's going to create some cool tension and cool, fun, fine. But the fact that is a different board
game as far as I'm concerned.
The fact that effect is designed in the set that is explicitly for 1v1 standard. This is a standard set that card exists. I think that is like that is the type of thing where it's like no, we still design for standard, and then we still put in cards that happen to be conducive for commander. Like we are of the mind, like we understand they design only pretty much for commander these days, but they still speak about how they're like, no, we design for standard, and then if we can slot stuff in for commander, we slot it in for commander, as opposed to being we slot in for commander and standard just happens to be a byproduct of like a foregone age.
Are you sure that card do you know what the name of that card is, Phil?
Just go into Mythic Spoiler and look up black cards.
Just look up black cards in the Final Fantasy set?
Yeah, just go to I'm going to Mythic Spoiler, I'm going to black cards. I'll look for 4, it's 4 black. All right, it is Summon Paladin Odin, and it is in the standard set. This is not...
It is in the standard set. There it is. Okay. Just making sure. I'm like, before you go griping about this...
So let's read this card,
It's not 4 mana, by the way.
It's 4 black. It's 6 mana.
4 black. Yeah.
But this is in the standard set. It is a one of the sagas, right? It's a summon. It's one of the sagas. Creature saga. It is... Yep. Chapter 1, destroy target creature and opponent control. So it's just... What's that 2/2 for 4 that comes in and just destroys a creature?
Necrotal?
No,
2/1 first strike?
No. Necrotal destroys a non-black creature. It's the Necrotal effect, but there was a different card in Standard a long time ago that was 4 mana, just destroy target creature as a 2/2.
Slaughter something?
Who knows, man? It's a 2/2 ETB's destroy thing. This is 6 mana, destroy thing, it's 5/3.
A Ravenous Chupacabra.
And now, Chapter 2 on this thing. This creature gains... Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game.
Yes.
Now, that is in a standard set. On a 6-mana creature, it just says, you lose the game if this thing connects. I don't know. This card is the most offensive to me in this set. Not because the effect is necessarily too powerful, but like, this is not a standard. This is not like... So the win condition is... like. I think it is laughable that is Chapter 2. If this deals damage, that player loses the game. In a 1v1 game, the game ends. And then in Chapter 3, it says, you draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. So you draw 2 cards after you've won the game, Zach. Like, it is just, like, this is the most, like, okay, so the game this is designed so that the game ends on chapter 2, but now there's also a chapter 3. It's just like, if you want this effect, why isn't it chapter 3? That way, it's like, you destroy the thing, you ancestral recall for your 6 mana.
Because they didn't want you to draw a bunch more removal.
I think that this one is the most glaringly offensive card for the standard set, because to have the card that says win the game on it and then have an effect after the game is over, presumably, is just feels like, oh yeah, here's our standard set, and then they just spit all over it, right? Like, I don't know, that one is just so glaringly obvious that we are commander and commander only at this point. I get that there's so much about this set that is just commander focused, but like that one in particular is like, we really aren't trying to even contextualize this in a 1v1 game anymore.
Phil, do you know if there's another Louis Sue card? It's just Louis Sue sacrifice. I just
dude, he can't. What else can Louis Sue do? He's already sacrificed everything.
Yeah, he just died.
Louis Sue's already gone. He sacrificed.
She dies. I don't know.
Louis swap.
Louis Sue and the Banshees.
Anyway, Commander is the worst thing that's ever happened to this game, and I'm sorry about it.
Thanks for watching. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. It grows the legacy content ecosystem we all love by relaying to the platform that you are part of our passionate community.
And to go even further, click the links for subscription or to support directly via Patreon to help us create more content for you. Patreon supporters get 4 exclusive extra episodes per month. If you're listening on an audio platform, head over to patreon.com/eternaldurdles.
Thanks so much for your support.
We'll see you in the next one.